thing about this film is to reveal Alma to the public at large. I didn't know before I was sent the research material about Alma that came with the script, incidentally. I didn't know anything about her at all. No, but I had an amazing source of research for my performance, which was a book that Patricia Hitchcock wrote. And I thought it was amazing that here's this daughter of an the most famous film director, almost probably in the history of film, and she writes a book, a biography. She does an autobiography, not about her father, her famous film director father, but about her mother, and she calls it Alma Revel. And I thought that spoke volumes about the importance of Alma in that family and in that life and in that life of work in film. So that was an amazing resource for me, and I do advise you all to go out and find that book on Amazon and read it, because it's a great other look at Hitchcock.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's quite the love story, I thought this was, the two of them. And you realize, wow, what a partner she was, just personally, but really professionally, too. She really had the eye. She really was the power behind Hitchcock.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think their relationship came through a love of film. You know, they met in a film studio in England in the very, very early days of silent movies in England, really starting in on the very, very beginnings of filmmaking. They came together in a mutual love of film. They went off to Germany, and then both of them got very excited about German expressionist filmmaking. And it was on the way back from that trip where they'd been making a film together out there that he proposed to her. So I think she was as obsessed and as fascinated and concerned and interested by film as much as Hitch was. And I think it was very much the glue, ultimately, one of the many glues that held them together, was this mutual love of film.
I wonder what it was like for you, the Hollywood of that time, 1960, where this is taking place, 59, when they were making Psycho. So different seems from the Hollywood of today, you know, the one that you exist in.
I don't know that that's true, actually, because, I mean, I love being a foreigner, you know, an incomer, an immigrant in a way. I love the history of Hollywood. And when I first came, you know, where do you go when you're a foreigner? Where do you go when you first come to Los Angeles?
Chinese theater.
Exactly. You go straight to the Chinese theater and you look at those handprints and you're just blown away by that. And you look at the stars on the Hollywood Boulevard. And when I first came, you know, Hollywood Boulevard was basically drug dealers and prostitutes, you know, and the odd sort of tourist like me wandering around going, is this glamorous Hollywood? But, you know, old Hollywood, which is where all the, so many of the studios are still there, these small studios. We shot in one for Hitchcock. Paramount Studios, obviously, is there. And more than that, all the houses that do the post-production, you know, the looping houses, so many of those houses are still in Hollywood. So Hollywood, in a way, is still the artisanal centre of filmmaking, to me anyway. And it still is. And to visit it in it kind of its heyday, in a sense, in those sort of late 50s, early 60s period. It was so wonderful to shoot in Hollywood, I guess is what I'm saying.
And I just found out that, speaking of Hollywood, which is amazing to me that you didn't have one yet, but I'm so glad you're getting one. You're getting a star on Thursday, right there in Hollywood.
There's one big problem with that, which is that I'm going to want to go and look at it all the time. And then I have to go in disguise, because it's kind of embarrassing to stand there gawping at your own star.
You know they have people that clean. There's people that clean the stars. Yeah, each star has their own cleaner that volunteers. And, you know, I'm serious. There absolutely are people attached to that. So it's great. Amazing. To keep it going, yeah.
I'll be paying them lots of money on the side. I mean, unbelievably excited about that because of this love of, you know, the history of Hollywood, as I said, and being there when I first came. I mean, I can't believe it's fantastic. It's better than being a dame, I tell you.
That's funny. Working with Anthony Hopkins for the first time. You've since worked with him again in a movie that will be coming out next year, I guess. The sequel to Red, is that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay.
But first time working with Anthony Hopkins, who's also phenomenal as Alfred Hitchcock in this. That must have been a special treat for you at this.
It was yes. I mean, I was intimidated because Anthony is a little bit older than I am. So when I came into the acting business, I started off in the theatre in England. Tony Hopkins was already a big, recognised, star of the theatre and recognised as the superb actor that he is. And and all of these years, I've always kind of wanted to work with him, but it never happened. And finally, it did happen. So I was quite nervous about it. I was quite intimidated, but I think because of our history of working in theatre, not together, but having both had that experience, there was a natural sort of relationship, a natural work ethic, or whatever the word is, that made it very easy for us to work together. It worked out just great.
When was that first time you saw him on the set, walked on the set, and saw him as Alfred Hitchcock? Did it kind of freak you out,
Well, no, because it doesn't work like that, because what happens is you have, wig and hair tests for a couple of weeks before you start shooting. So I watched the process develop with Tony, and that was fascinating to watch, because when they first did the test, and because then they wanted to see it together and so forth. When they first did the test, he had much more sort of prosthetic makeup on. So he did look exactly like Alfred Hitchcock. But on the other hand, it was a mask. It was like just putting on a mask. So, it's a very interesting process, that of because the audience know that it's not Alfred Hitchcock, they know that it's Tony Hopkins. So, in a way, they feel cheated, I think, if they only see Alfred Hitchcock and they're looking for Tony Hopkins. So you have to let the actor engage with the audience's imagination. There's something about that, and I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's a delicate balance between looking enough like him, but then enough for the audience to see the Tony Hopkins that is acting Hitchcock. And I found the same with the Queen, incidentally, that I wore no makeup really at all for the Queen. It was all to do with Helen Mirren acting the Queen, and that's actually what the audience want to see. They don't want to see a mask, they want to see a performance. And I think, I do believe that's what we see with Tony. And when at the end of the day, sometimes he'd rip all this stuff off his face, because he did have some stuff on, and it was Tony Hopkins, I would go, what are you doing here? Are you in this movie? Because I got so used to Tony being Hitch, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So Tony as Tony was a very weird sort of person that I didn't really know. I knew Hitch a lot better than I knew Tony.
It is very good makeup work, I should say, and it's a finalist for the Academy Award for makeup.
Really, it should be. It was incredible. Incredible. I mean, when we did the bath scene at the beginning of the film, I was this close to him, and everything, it was just so completely real. It was amazing. You couldn't see any makeup. It was incredible.
You have so many great scenes together, and so many great scenes. It's so well written, this film, and directed. And we should mention Sasha Gervasi's first narrative film that he's done. He did documentary Anvil and written stuff, but the first
absolutely.
one, which is, you're walking into a movie here, you've done a lot of movies with great directors. This is his first shot at this kind of thing. Was there any trepidation, or what was it like?
I mean, every film is a bit of a crapshoot. You have to jump in at the deep end and hope for the best. And obviously, if you have an experienced director and you've admired and loved their work, the odds are slightly greater shorter. But you always take a kind of a risk. You make a commitment. It was very easy to commit to Sacha because he was just so delightful to be with. Before we'd shot a single shot, he was just so lovely, so energetic, so committed, so funny, and that was very important. And he knew exactly how to be with Tony and I, and it was not such an easy thing because we are both established, and he was, but he knew how to be in charge, but in a way that was not ingratiatingly humble, but recognizing, that he was a newcomer and he had never done this before, and he was up for advice. He just handled it brilliantly, I thought, and I thought he made a fantastic movie.
Yeah, it's a tricky movie to pull off, too.
Absolutely. Thank you. I mean, the tone is so delicate between funny, real, not real, fantasy. It's a really, I think it's a truly brilliant job that he's done, and not easy to see how brilliant it is, but I think very, very, very clever.
And then to have this real story going on there between the two of them, and I gotta say, again, I mentioned this to you before, but that scene where you tell him off and you talk about, do you think it's easy, obviously, walking, that scene in the movie where she has that, is an extraordinary thing. It must have been an extraordinary thing to play, but it says so much beyond this industry, I think, to people out there who may have been in the shadows of somebody that they're living with.
Yes, and the supporter of, and I mean, women are particularly good at that, unfortunately. They're very good at quietly supporting in the background, and there are many, throughout the whole history of mankind, there have been women who've done that, and done it with incredible grace and energy and humbleness. And it's sort of, part of me wants to say, no girl, don't do that, get up and take credit for what you do. On the other hand, there's something very noble about that and very beautiful. And certainly Alma, I don't think Alma, from what I read in the daughter's book, she didn't want to be in the spotlight. She didn't want record. She was perfectly content and accepting to be in, the partner that she was. And I put that down to the fact of that the nature of film, which is so profoundly collaborative, and the credits that you didn't see, all this list of people who will never stand on the red carpet and be interviewed by Entertainment Tonight, but they are as important to the making of the film as I am or Tony is, especially Danny Elfman, cinematographer, costume designer, the props person, and then on and on and on, and every single person. But they understand the nature of the work. They know that they push the actors out to be the face, but everybody in the business knows that they are as important. When you're on the set, they're often more important than the actor, actually. So I think that's where Alma saw herself, in the credits, if you like, in that way.
Well, you've been involved in Hollywood in your own kind of high-profile relationship. You're both Taylor Hackford, your husband. You're both in the business. Did you ever feel that at all at any point in your relationship?
Oh, my God, absolutely. When I first came to Los Angeles, Taylor was, big-time Hollywood film director. I was a theatre actress from England, like, what a joke. And also he had a sort of little mini studio he ran for a while, so he could actually greenlight movies. And my goodness me, to be the partner at a party of someone who can greenlight a movie, it's like being worse than something the cat drug in. You're just like elbowed out the way. Oh, I mean, shamelessly, people just walk straight over you to get to the person that they want to sell their script to or their actor to or whatever. Yeah.
So interesting. So you did have a little bit of that.
I had real experience of that, so I could speak from the heart there. Yeah.
That's great. Let's see if they have any questions out here. Yeah, right here.